Hey everyone, Mike here from MLive&apos, joined by Justin Rogers. I think we're both here today to kind of provide a little bit of a mea culpa for our very inaccurate season predictions. Justin, I think we both predicted 10. I predicted 10 wins. You picked
Also
the same thing,
predicted
right?
10 wins, yeah.
So at 0-5, I think maybe it's time to recalibrate those expectations for the Lions. We've got a schedule here. Justin, how many wins do you think the Lions end up with?
This is the video where we decide whether they go 0-16 or not. No, I was just looking at it. I think, spoiler on our picks for this week, but I think this is the week the skid
Go
ends.
Lions. Go Lions.
But looking over the whole thing, I don't see many more than 4 victories. I think 4-12 is what you're looking at. That's still going to be a top 10 pick, probably top 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got the same thing. I've got 4 wins. I think they beat Chicago. Again, spoiler alert. I think they'll split either Minnesota at home or Kansas City in London. Kansas City's not very good. The game's a neutral field. I think Lions going through the London ordeal will actually help them. That was a difficult week, I thought, last year.
That's 2-6 right there. That's playoff hope still alive.
I think they beat the Raiders at home. And then down the stretch, you got the Eagles at home on Thanksgiving. Lions have won a couple of Thanksgiving games in a row now. They're tough. Packers at home. Rams, Saints, 49ers. 49ers are a pretty good bet, I think.
They're not beating the Rams.
Yeah, in St. Louis, yeah, that's the tough one. But 49ers at home in the home finale, I think they have a pretty good shot of winning that one as well. 4-12, you're talking about probably a top 5 pick at that point.
Yeah, that's a fewer number than I guess what Glover Quinn was predicting this week with 11, and God bless him. I mean that's his obligation is to believe they can win every game, and I'm not going to fault him for that. I don't know if I would have said it, but
of course Quinn's also the one that picked them to go 7-1, I believe, to open the season.
Yeah, misfired there. I mean that wasn't quite as bad as, but I went back and I looked at your predictions, guys, and we did a little poll right before kickoff when the Kool-Aid drunkenness was at its fever pitch, and 71% of you had a minimum of 9 wins.
Ooh.
So your fans were not. We should be a little bit more objective, and we missed pretty badly. This team looked really good in training camp.
Yeah.
Just had an aura of confidence about them, and like that in the NFL. I mean, it just starts rolling one way, and you can't stop it down the slippery slope.
I was asked a few times on radio interviews and stuff like that preseason about the minimum number of wins for this team, and I said 6, which obviously we're coming in now below even that.
Yeah.
But I could see a scenario coming into the year where there's an injury or the offensive line doesn't perform or whatever. The defense takes a step back, where this team wouldn't perform as well as you would expected. Of course, I expected way better. I expected 10-6. I expected the offense to take a huge step forward. We now know that all that hope was basically just that. It was hope. There was never any substance behind it, and I thought there was a massive miscalculation there with Lombardi and Caldwell and what they had on offense. But this thing's way off the rails at this point, and I don't see them. I really don't see them getting more than 4, maybe 5 wins at this point.
Should have beat the Chargers. Probably should have beat the Broncos.
Can you imagine how different this season feels if they win that game? I mean, because then you lose, and say the Vikings and Broncos. You're still only 1-2 with the chance in Seattle. Maybe you lose that one with the controversial call.
And you should have won that game.
Still feels a lot different. Exactly. So this season could have played out way differently. You feel differently. Now it just feels like it's one thing after another, just burying this team. I know that's the way I felt against the Cardinals. It's it got to the 4th play of the game, and they're being booed by their own fans because of everything that had happened the weeks prior. If they had escaped with a win against the Chargers or the Seahawks or both, the dynamics of that game are way different, and who knows how it plays out.
The whole year leading up to it, I mean, the way I broke it down is they had to split in San Diego, Minnesota. They didn't. I thought the Denver win was a must-win at home in the home opener, and had to go 3-3 out the gate. And once that San Diego game fell apart, and fell apart after I think Stafford got hit by Ingram, I think that was the turning point in that game. It's like that was the turning point in the season, and it shouldn't happen in the first half of the first game. But here we are.
Yeah, we've talked about how the Lions could salvage this season. I just don't see how it's going to happen. I don't see a lot of short-term solutions. I think what plagues the Lions it's deeper, it's more systemic than just something that's more cosmetic like the offensive line. But I do think if they improve the offensive line, this team can still, it could be 500 team or maybe even like one game above 500 the rest of the way. If the offensive line makes a dramatic step forward, because I still think Stafford and Calvin and Tate and a much improved Ebron, those guys can get stuff done. I think if Stafford has time in the pocket, he's done it before. I still think Abdullah can play if he has some holes. You got Joyk coming back. Theo's been real good as pass catcher. Yeah, even Zenner showed some flashes, I thought, last week. So I mean, I don't see it happening, but it could. If you're looking for something positive or how this season could actually turn out, okay, that would be it.
It was such an embarrassing loss to Arizona that it's hard to take positives out of that game. But 6 turnovers is an anomaly. That doesn't happen that often.
It's rock bottom. So that's not going to happen every week. Not people talking about 0-16. I just don't see that happening. I see that as rock bottom.
But I guess I look at the positives in that, and I know it's really difficult to do that, but that first half, I liked the play calling a lot. I thought they were moving the ball effectively. They still didn't have all their weapons. They didn't have Ebron. They didn't have Bell, and I know everybody's given up on Bell at this point, but I don't want to be in that group yet until I see a little bit more. But you take away the fumbles. Those shouldn't happen. You take the really bad throws away from Stafford, like that first one to Tim Wright, and that's a different game. I still think the Cardinals win it, but you can take some solace in the fact that the offense seems to be coming together. The offensive line was run blocking better. Stafford didn't take a sack in that game, wasn't hit as much. They are making progress. It's a young group. They're coming together from a chemistry standpoint, from a development standpoint. They are going to get better. I still think the right tackle situation needs to be addressed in the offseason, but Laken Tomlinson is going to get better. Travis Swanson is going to get better. Larry Warford's going to get in there at some point, and he's going to have some, I think, rust to shake off, but that middle of the line is going to become much more solid. That's where they're going to be able to run the ball a little bit more effectively, at least more effectively than 2 point whatever yards per carry. And
2.8.
Stafford should face less pressure up the gut. That should lead to, as we're talking about, the 4-5 wins.
And who knows when Levy gets back out there, but I think on defense you have to like the way Bynes has played in spot duty for Levy. You've got Nada, I think, coming back maybe this week. If not this week, then the next week for sure. And Ziggy Ansah. I mean, with all the bad stuff that's happening, we don't talk about this guy nearly as much. But he leads the NFL in sacks. He's become the splash play, big play, playmaker that the Lions need and require up there in the absence of Sue. And it's encouraging to see. Even last week when you had backups at both defensive tackle spots, he was the force. He was the enforcer up there, and I think you have to like his progress there, and I think gives some hope, especially with long term when Levy comes back, that this defense can still recapture some element of its form from 2014.
Yeah, you saw it coming with Ansah. I mean, last year he was pressuring the quarterback so much and he just wasn't finishing the play. You knew that was the next logical step in his progression as long as he could stay healthy. That's a guy, I mean, they just have to lock up long term. I know people are always skittish now. They see a guy like Levy get locked up and then the injury, but you can't play with fear with money like that. You got to sign guys. I think Slay and Ansah are 2 guys that they really need to lock up long term.
That's what we got for today. Lions, Bears on Sunday. Lions still looking for their first win. We'll be all over it this week. For Justin Rogers, I'm Kyle Meinke. We are MLive. Keep it right here.